Hi everyone, here's your first lesson on fairy tales. So what is a fairy tale? In pre-literate history, meaning our far past before people wrote or read books, and definitely way before movies and television, winter was a time of hunkering down with not much to do after dark. Telling and retelling stories became entertainment for adults and children alike. But where did these stories come from? Some were made up, some were to teach a lesson, some were based on things that really happened, and some were based on things you wished would happen, like Happily Ever After with a prince in shining armor. But a dictionary tells us that a fairy tale is a children's story with fantastic forces like magic and beings such as fairies, wizards, goblins, or dragons. Or it's a story of improbable events that lead to a happy ending. What fairy tales do you know? Fairy tales are lumped together with other types of stories, like folk tales and legends, fables and myths. But what are these? What are folk tales, fables, and myths? A fable is a short story, typically with animals as the characters, to convey a moral lesson. A folk tale is a tale or legend retold among folk or people, especially one considered to be false or based on superstition. And a myth is a story to explain something unexplainable, at least at that time, some unexplainable natural event, and typically involved supernatural beings or events. Here are some examples of fables, folk tales, and myths you may be familiar with. Some of them you may not. So what do we find in a fairy tale that makes it a fairy tale? Here are some of the common things. There's tragedy involved. Someone has died, someone is orphaned. There's magic or magical beings. There's royalty, or at least very powerful people. There are often things that come in threes, like the three little pigs or the three Billy Goats Gruff. There are talking creatures, animals that talk that shouldn't. There's often a poor person who becomes a hero or a heroine. There's happily ever after, and there's good versus evil. Here are some examples of fairy tales that you might be familiar with. Cinderella, Rumpelstiltskin, The Gingerbread Man, Aladdin's Lamp, Alice in Wonderland. So in summary, fairy tales are short stories that are fantasy, and often they involve magic. Thank you for listening.